Video blog.
Hey guys, this is Tim from Twice Circled, and welcome to episode 28 of the official Megaquarium video blog. Now, as promised last week, I have a brand new build for you. And in today's episode, and over the next few episodes, I'm going to be talking about some of the new things that I've added to the game. But to start with, we're going to talk about some quality of life improvements that I've added, and then we'll get onto the main attraction, which is the thing that I talked about last week, which was that staff and guests now stay in your aquarium overnight. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact this has and why I think it's a good change for the game. Okay, so quality of life improvements. The first is we now have this rather fetching highlight outline on all of the items in your aquarium, rather than before where it kind of turned to grayscale. That was always a temporary thing because I'd already made the grayscale effect for when you're placing things down, and I only just got around to fixing that, but I do think it's much improved. And one of the nice things about it is the highlight even appears when the item is obscured by something else. And what's the reason this is rather nice is that if you hover over one of the items in this little contents list here inside one of your tanks, for example, it'll actually highlight the thing, even if let's see if we can find something that's obscured. There we go. This plant here you can barely see, but if you highlight over it, you can see the highlight even though it's obscured, which is really useful. Now the second thing that's pretty cool is, and it's kind of connected in that it's helpful, it aids you when you're trying to identify, when you're trying to locate something rather, which often happened if you remember during the playthrough, because something would be brought to my attention in the day summary window and I wouldn't know where to find it. So for example, imagine that you've been told that tank 2 here has some low water quality in the day summary window. Then you'd be able to, and say your aquarium was much bigger than this, what you can actually do is hover over this portrait, and not only it won't only highlight it, it will also, if you click it, it will zip you right over so it's in the center of the screen, to make it much easier to find things. And you can do this with everything. You can do it with fish, so say you want to find a fish, that'll zip you over, as well as highlighting it. Which is really useful. Now the other couple of quality of life improvements, the first one is the walls are, I've got this new mode. So before, if you'll remember, you had the choice of having your walls up or down. I'm just experimenting with this new mode. Now it's a bit buggy, so it might go a little bit weird, but where what we do is we only lower the walls if they are at the front, so if they have the potential to obscure stuff that's behind. Apologies if you get into bleeps in the background. That's that's my Skype. I forgot to mute it. It's always something. Literally every episode is always something like that. Anyway, so the reason it's a little bit buggy still is it's actually quite hard to kind of compute whether it's blocking something or not. But this seems to be working pretty well. So the walls at the back are still up, but the walls at the front are left down. So you see, if you turn around to here, these walls drop down, but some other walls might have popped up. So yeah, work in progress, but I do think it looks better. So I think once I've managed to get rid of the kinks, I think this hybrid mode will be a really nice addition. I think I'll still give you the option of having them down or up, but there'll also be this hybrid mode, which will be the default, I think, which allows you to see stuff, but also keeps these high walls at the back, which I think looks better. The final thing is I've added some indicators of the type of food that is, one, inside the food dispensers, and two, which is shown on the fish themselves. Which is just a, like I say, quality of life improvement, because you will remember it was getting quite annoying when I was doing that gameplay run through, having to remember what all of the different fish ate, and I had to keep going to the build window. Alright, so that's those. Now onto the main attraction. No pun intended. And that's the fact that guests and staff stay in their aquarium overnight. So I'm going to quickly demo that. What I've done here is I've actually cheated, given myself a load of money and points so I could unlock some stuff, and I built an aquarium which should keep my guests entertained for at least a whole day, because actually if you just start off with the kind of at the very beginning of the game with just a couple of tanks, then normally your guests will actually leave during that first day. So I wanted to show you what happens if they stay overnight. Let's just zip it on. Got our staff going round. Oh, our staff now have caps. That's a cool addition. So I do listen. This was the thing that out of all the people who have played the game at shows and stuff like that, the piece of feedback that I got most often was that people couldn't find their staff. And now, in fact, there is a nice easy way to find your staff now. Well, I guess it's not that easy. You have to click up them and you can select them like this. But still, being able to locate them at a glance is nice too. And you wouldn't believe the number of people who suggested just adding a cap. And I guess as long as you don't let the other guests have caps, or maybe if they can have like different sorts of hats, then that'd be okay. But yeah, so I've added that now. So this is nothing new, and even the guest rating page won't be that different. This is actually unchanged. What it does is it looks at all of your guests in your aquarium currently, and it adds up the it takes the average of all of these different parameters, so the number of fish they've seen, the variety, the total decoration seen of a decoration variety, and other things. As you know, there's some other things that contribute to this. And it takes the average and it shows that. And you'd be surprised that this works remarkably well, even with the new system where the guests stay overnight. More on that in a second. So there we go. Instead of it fading out to black and then everybody being wiped from the map, everybody just stays, including your staff. So the big impact of this is that your guests will now no longer have this cap on basically how far that they can walk within your aquarium. So they'll get, so far during one day, and then they'll stay overnight, and they'll keep walking around it the next day, and they'll keep seeing new things. Whereas before, and to be fair, I have suspected this might be an issue for a long time, ever since I put in the thing that the guests went home overnight. I suspected I might have to do this one day, but I wanted to wait and see. I didn't know where the gameplay was going to be at that point, and you have to kind of experiment and just see where the fun is. But what I've realised is this game gets really fun when you have a big aquarium and you have a lot of staff to manage and loads of crazy stuff going on. Rather than trying to make a really intense small aquarium. Now, for the record, you can still do that, and it's still a pretty good tactic, is to have as many different things and as much fun, as much kind of guest rating stuff in a small area as possible, because it's only going to increase your guest rating. There's no point spreading stuff out unless you have to. But I also want it to be a way of doing things, just having a large sprawling aquarium, and I didn't want to discount that as a potential gameplay strategy. And as I say, it kind of just works the same. Basically, what happens is it doesn't forget what these guys saw the day before. These guys who were in the aquarium already, these guys are new people entering. They basically will just keep on looking around the aquarium, and they'll keep seeing new things, and that will just be added up to their tallies. Now, eventually, if they don't see anything new for a while, they will go home. And that's just, there needs to be a reason why your guests go home, right? And it still incentivizes you to build a good aquarium, which is fun for your guests, basically. If your tanks are too spread out and it's too much of a maze and the guests can't get to everything, then they'll actually head home earlier and they might not see everything. So the guests don't stay until they see everything. It's actually a little internal counter which constantly decreases. Here's the first couple of guests that are leaving. And basically every time they see something cool, it'll go up and they'll stay in your aquarium for longer. And the reason they're staying in quite a long time is actually I have a lot of cool unique fish here, so there's some good stuff going on. But if you just have the same old fish over and over again, eventually they'll just get bored and they'll just go home anyway. And it just works really nicely. So the other thing, and before I wrap up, is what impact does this have on the staff? Well, the main thing is that your staff now don't have to walk from the entrance to their working area at the beginning of each day, which saves them a bit of time, and it gives you a bit more flexibility when it comes to optimizing their routes. So, for example, if we had Verity just working in this zone, she could be incredibly, even if she had 10 different foods to take to various tanks, she could just do tiny little trips all the way back and forth each day, and she could stay in that area all the time, and she wouldn't need to do that walk from here. I'm just going to get rid of that zone for now. I might do some zoning in the next episode. And yeah, so I actually think that improves it. So I hope you guys all agree that this is a really big improvement for the game. I think it's going to be really fun. It means I'm going to finally be able to show you some big aquariums. I think next week what I'm going to do is I'll keep expanding this aquarium, and I will talk to you about a new feature which is connected to this, which I'm really excited about. It kind of doesn't work without the other really, which is basically it's basically guest and staff needs. So guest and staff are people. Up until now they've not really had any needs, and they will start needing things to keep working on the case of the staff, and the guests, they will need things to stay in the aquarium. You know, that seeing new things counter that I talked about earlier, that's just kind of the basic thing, but you'll also have to keep certain other needs satisfied if you're going to keep them in your aquarium. But I will leave you on a cliffhanger, and I will tell you more about that one in the next episode. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!